It was a warm spring morning in Hanover, Indiana, when everything changed. On April 3, 2025, the body of 35-year-old Wilma Robertson was discovered in her modest one-story home by her younger sister, who had grown concerned after Wilma failed to respond to texts for 2 days. The scene was brutal. Wilma had been stabbed repeatedly, with signs of a struggle suggesting the killer was someone she knew or trusted. For a town like Hanover, quiet, tight-knit, and relatively untouched by serious crime, the murder felt like a rupture in reality. Residents whispered in grocery store aisles and avoided walking alone at night. People who had never locked their doors started checking them twice. Almost immediately, suspicion fell on Sean Bailey, a 33-year-old man from nearby Louisville, Kentucky, who had a minor criminal record and a complicated history with Wilma. Rumors swirled that he had once dated her, though friends close to Wilma disputed it, saying their relationship was nothing more than an occasional acquaintance. Still, when the police received an anonymous tip linking Bailey to threatening messages sent to Wilma weeks before her death, the pieces seemed to fall into place. Bailey was arrested within 72 hours. Local media pounced on the story, portraying him as a scorned lover driven to murder. For many in the town, the case already felt closed. An open and shut example of jealousy turned violent. But something didn't sit right with lead investigator Marla Jenkins. The forensic evidence told a different story. There were no fingerprints, no traces of Sean's DNA, no physical link between Bailey and the murder scene. Even more concerning were the messages supposedly sent from Bailey to Wilma's phone. The language didn't match his known speech patterns, and a forensic linguist flagged them as potentially fabricated. Then came the real breakthrough. A single surveillance camera from a neighbor's porch captured a figure entering Wilma's house late at night. Someone shorter, heavier, and moving differently than Bailey. The camera's timestamp aligned perfectly with the suspected time of death. What followed was a rapid unraveling of the initial case. Investigators shifted their attention to the digital trail. IP addresses, device metadata, and social media accounts linked to the threatening messages. The deeper they dug, the more bizarre the case became. They uncovered fake Facebook and Instagram accounts created in Bailey's name, all filled with disturbing posts and private messages to Wilma and others. But the accounts had been created using an Ohio-based IP address, not Louisville. Eventually, digital forensic experts traced it all back to one man, Nigel Thomas, a 34-year-old IT technician from Dayton, Ohio, with no criminal history, but a long-standing obsessive interest in Wilma Robertson. Nigel Thomas wasn't just some stranger. He had met Wilma a year prior at a tech conference in Cincinnati, where she was presenting on social media safety for educators. Thomas, who attended the session, later sent her a long email praising her work, an email that Wilma never responded to. Over the months that followed, he sent more messages, commented under her public posts, and even showed up to 2 local workshops she happened to be part of. Eventually, Wilma blocked him on all platforms. That's when things took a darker turn. According to a recovered digital journal found on Thomas's computer, he had spent months devising a way to teach her a lesson and make her fear the wrong people. His goal wasn't just to hurt Wilma. It was to ruin the life of an innocent man, all to mask his own obsession and manipulate the investigation. The more investigators uncovered, the more horrifying the picture became. Thomas had gone to extraordinary lengths to impersonate Sean Bailey, not only by creating fake social media accounts, but also by using voice-altering AI to leave threatening voicemails on Wilma's burner phone, mimicking Bailey's voice. He even used a virtual private network and prepaid data plans to make his trail harder to follow. What initially looked like sloppy police work now seemed like a chilling example of digital manipulation at its peak. If not for a few anomalies, a mismatched timestamp, a camera angle, and one confused IP ping, Thomas might have succeeded. When Thomas was finally arrested in his Dayton apartment, investigators found a wall covered in printed photos of Wilma, digital maps, and scribbled timelines. It resembled something from a psychological thriller. On his laptop were documents with titles like Operation Bailey, outlining his month-by-month strategy to frame the man. In one file, he wrote chillingly, "People believe what they see online. No one checks twice. If I control the story, I control the truth." Authorities later revealed that Thomas had even considered staging another incident to reinforce the illusion of Bailey's guilt, including breaking into Wilma's workplace and planting further fabricated messages on her work devices. Sean Bailey was released after 23 days behind bars. During that time, he lost his job, his apartment, and custody of his 4-year-old daughter. Even after the truth emerged, the damage was done. Neighbors still gave him wary glances. Employers were hesitant. "I was erased," he said in a televised interview, his voice steady but hollow. "Even when they cleared my name, people looked at me like the guy who almost got away with murder." His civil lawsuit against the state is still pending, as are legal actions against Thomas for emotional and reputational damages. Nigel Thomas now faces a series of charges including first-degree murder, identity theft, cybercrime, and obstruction of justice. Prosecutors are expected to seek the maximum sentence. His defense team initially suggested a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity, citing obsessive-compulsive disorder and delusional tendencies. But leaked jailhouse recordings showed Thomas boasting about outsmarting the police, calling it the ultimate performance. Public sentiment turned quickly against him, especially as more women came forward, claiming he had harassed them online under fake identities. The case has sparked widespread debate across the country. Experts warn that this might be one of the first publicly documented attempts at a full-scale digital frame job. But it won't be the last. Law enforcement agencies are now receiving updated training on AI voice manipulation, synthetic media, and cyber forensic protocols. For Wilma's family, and for Sean, the technological aspect only deepens the pain. A woman is dead, a man's life was nearly destroyed, and a quiet town will never be the same. As the trial looms, one question remains. How many more Nigels are out there, hiding behind keyboards, ready to rewrite someone else's story? In the weeks following his arrest, investigators continued combing through Thomas's devices. They uncovered additional alarming materials. Scripts of fabricated conversations between Sean and Wilma, deepfake images, and even a private Discord server where Thomas documented every step of his plan like a diary. It was all there. How he chose Sean as the scapegoat, how he rehearsed email phrasing to mimic casual threats, and how he manipulated metadata to make it appear authentic. Thomas wasn't improvising. He was executing a digital crime playbook step by step. What baffled investigators most was how long Thomas had studied his target. He had downloaded dozens of photos of Sean Bailey, watched his old social media videos to mimic speech patterns, and researched the layout of his apartment to impersonate location tags. Thomas used facial recognition tools to create aged versions of Bailey's face to use in fake accounts. This wasn't just a moment of obsession. It was a calculated, months-long operation to destroy 2 lives, Wilma's and Bailey's. During a press conference, Hanover's police chief admitted that if it weren't for the relentless curiosity of lead investigator Jenkins and a few digital anomalies, they might have prosecuted an innocent man. "We were inches away from closing the case for good," she said. "This should scare everyone because it could have happened to anyone." The statement sent ripples through law enforcement communities nationwide. Digital crimes were no longer just scams or identity theft. Now they could be murder cover-ups. For Wilma's family, the pain was twofold. Not only had they lost a daughter and sister in the most violent way imaginable, but they had also unknowingly supported the arrest of an innocent man. Wilma's mother gave an emotional interview, expressing guilt over believing the messages Thomas had fabricated. "I thought I was reading Sean's words," she said. "But it was him, the man who took her from us, pretending to be someone else. That betrayal runs deep." The town of Hanover now finds itself at the center of a national conversation on digital safety, privacy, and criminal investigation. Schools have introduced seminars on online identity protection. Local law enforcement has started a pilot program teaching residents how to spot signs of deepfake content. And perhaps most significantly, the case has become a study model at several universities. A real-world example of how modern technology can be used to blur the lines between truth and fiction, justice and injustice. In court, Nigel Thomas appeared calm, eerily so. During his arraignment, he avoided eye contact with Wilma's family and showed no reaction when the charges were read aloud. Prosecutors painted him as a technological predator, someone who exploited every digital tool at his disposal to manipulate reality. The defense remained tight-lipped, likely preparing for an uphill battle as overwhelming digital evidence piled up. The prosecution's case included audio files, manipulated code, metadata logs, and a full psychological profile that framed Thomas not as insane, but as obsessively methodical. Public interest in the case surged. True crime podcasts dissected every detail. Documentarians scrambled to secure interview rights. Even major tech publications weighed in, debating whether the tools used by Thomas should be more tightly regulated. Many argued that what Thomas did wasn't science fiction. It was the new face of cybercrime. In an age where voices can be cloned, locations spoofed, and photos fabricated in minutes, the line between real and fake grows thinner by the day. Meanwhile, Sean Bailey struggles to rebuild. Despite public apologies and media coverage clearing his name, the stigma lingers. He now lives out of state, trying to start fresh. "I didn't just lose time," he said in a recent podcast interview. "I lost trust in people, in systems, in the idea that truth always wins, because it almost didn't." His voice cracked when recalling his time in jail, not because of the violence or the cold, but because no one believed him. "I kept saying I didn't do it, and they kept nodding like I was crazy." Wilma's legacy, however, lives on. Her family started a nonprofit called Wilma's Voice, focused on teaching digital safety in schools and advocating for victims of online harassment. They believe that while justice will come through the courts, real change will only happen through education and awareness. Wilma believed in empowering others, her sister said. Even in death, she's doing that, by helping us understand the dangers we couldn't see before. As the trial date draws near, one thing is clear. This case will be remembered for years to come. Not just as a tragic murder, but as a turning point in how crimes are committed, framed, and uncovered. Framed. The chilling plot of Nigel Thomas is not just the story of a disturbed mind. It's a warning. In a world where digital reality can be twisted, where identity can be faked with a few clicks, the greatest danger may not be the crime itself, but the story that's believed. If this story shocked you, imagine how many more are out there, buried under false narratives and digital lies. Subscribe to Crime Chronicles for more real cases that go beyond the headlines. Share this video to spread awareness. And remember, in today's world, truth isn't always what it seems.